Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Cape Cod Gateway Airport Commission. Today is Tuesday, 17 October 2023, and the time is 16:01. May I have a roll call, please, Sue?
Certainly. Chairman Griffin,
Here.
Vice Chairman Flores.
Here.
Clerk Weil is not present. Commissioner Beerworth. Here. Commissioner Bailey.
Here.
Commissioner DeGeorge is not present. Commissioner Gio.
Here.
And Yarmouth Rep. Christine Greeley.
Here.
We do have a quorum this afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much. If anybody would stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Not sure about that.
Bless you. Okay, we have minutes from the September 19th meeting. Everybody got a chance to read them, and if anybody has any comment or additions, I'd entertain a motion to accept them as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, additions, modifications? Hearing none, all in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'll sign those for Norm. Norm is under the weather and on last minute opportunity to call in and say he couldn't be with us today, which is, we wish him well. And we know that Joe's up in New Hampshire taking care of some family business. Public comment. I don't see any, don't hear any, so won't be any report from subcommittees. I'll tell you what I'd like to do. We've got Christina here. It's the quarterly noise report. And if I could leapfrog her up to front so she can continue on, I shall do so. Do you have any objections to that? Christina, you're on.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that. So we have the third quarter noise report. We're covering July, August, and September of this year. For July, in the town of Barnstable, we had one noise complaint made by one complainant. Centerville, 1 and 1. In the town of Yarmouth, we had 11 noise complaints made by 5 complainants. For August, Barnstable, 4 noise complaints made by 4 complainants. For Yarmouth, 14 noise complaints made by 6 complainants. In the month of September, Barnstable, 1 noise complaint made by 1 complainant. In Centerville, 1 for 1. And in Yarmouth, we had 3 noise complaints made by 1 complainant. And as you probably know, you can tell we've got 36 complaints for this quarter, which is up over 100% from 2022. The big factor here is we know we have 624 closed. So that means that the communities on either end of 1533 are taking the bulk of the air traffic. So for everyone there they're used to noise, they're getting, double, feels like triple the noise. And so we're hearing from a lot of people we hadn't heard before. For the most part, when I explain to them what's going on, it's obviously not something pleasant they want to hear, but they do understand what the purpose is behind it and what the time frame is. We let them know it should be by the beginning of November, what we're doing, why we're doing it. And we also have been reminding them that back in 2017, they got the reprieve for the same amount of time. So through here, we have all the narratives. A lot of times we'll get emails, so I'll paste those in so you can, look at those at your leisure.
The runway closure is a huge factor, and I know that we're going to hear today that there's some relief knocking on the door, so that's really good. Any questions or comments from anybody regarding the current quarterly report? It's not surprising.
No, and we certainly understand, and we do the best we can to, speak to everybody, educate in where we can, and obviously, be sympathetic to what they're going through.
The interesting thing is the perception of altitude. Some people think they're right at the chimney tops when they're not.
And that's something I always used to think about, and I have the Coast Guard go over my house all the time, and one time they had a very, very large aircraft go over, and I'm like, that's low, but I was like, okay, no, I'm like, it feels low, based on the size. And that can, when you have a JetBlue coming over as opposed to a 402, it makes a huge difference. And, perception is a huge part of it. If somebody feels like it's too low, we're gonna investigate it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments for Christina? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Christina.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Report from subcommittees, we have Finance, and Vice Chair Flores, would you report on that, please?
Sure. The Finance Committee met on Tuesday, October 3rd. The meeting was held via Zoom, and we called the meeting to order. Called to order by Norm Wow, who was the chairperson, at 8:34 a.m. Commissioners Wild, Flores, and Bailey were present, all via Zoom. And we did approve the minutes of the September 6th, 2023 regular session finance meeting. That was by a roll call vote. We then moved on to old business. There wasn't any, whereupon we moved to new business. And the first item was Finance 1023-1. It was to review and discuss the license agreement binding between Cape Cod Gateway Airport and Next Grid Rappahannock LLC and Griffin Realty Trust for the purposes of developing rooftop solar on the Griffin hangar in alignment with Cape Cod Gateway Airport's guidelines for construction. And the bullets that were recorded as a result of the meeting, as the landowner, Cape Cod Gateway Airport desires to grant a license over the property to Next Grid Rappahannock LLC for the purposes of accessing, developing, building, operating, and maintaining a rooftop solar array to be placed on the rooftop of the hangar now owned by Griffin Avionics. The agreement will be for 20 years. The language has been added to the license agreement for Next Grid Rappahannock LLC to provide funding, a funding form of guarantee to meet any solar array removal obligations. And finally, modifications were made by our own airport attorney and satisfied that the airport is protected through this license agreement. The board voted to move this to the full commission for approval today, October 17th, 2023. Subsequent to that one item of new business, there were updates primarily focused on the monthly financials. They were reviewed. There was also an electronic aviation update by Manager Service. She did share with us that she would be sitting on a committee this week to discuss how electric aviation will affect each entity. It was interesting this morning, I probably all saw the Boston Globe article where there's now a charging station that was put in at Marshfield Airport, first one on the, I guess, in the Commonwealth. Subsequent to the electric aviation update, Manager Service gave us the airport management report that we have an agreement with Beta to install charging stations, but it won't happen until January 2024. We also discussed upcoming events. In October 23, we had a Hangers and Hamburgers, a Massachusetts Air and Space Museum event in coordination with the airport. In September 21st, it was a non-airport run event, but it was with the Cape Cod Young Professionals, a Back to Business Bash, which I attended, and I saw a number of other folks from the commission there. That was very well attended. It was a good crowd. September 22nd, the Southeast Mass Aviation Career Fair. That was a terrific event. There was feedback from the schools that we request to move the fourth annual event in 2024 back to STEM Week, which is in October, which makes sense and will be reviewed. And then on September 23, unfortunately, a great day at the Gateway, which a lot of time, effort, and energy went into planning. And we wanted to publicly thank all of those folks who contributed to the potential success. It was never meant to be because of the terrible weather that we had that day, so we had to cancel, which was disappointing for everyone involved. Manager Service, like I just said, thanked everyone who helped make all of the events successful. And finally, in March of 2024, Night in the Terminal, that planning is underway, and all other updates that were on the list will be addressed today at the October 17th Commission meeting. And subsequent, we adjourned unanimously at 9:16 a.m.
Thank you, John. John. Any questions, comments regarding the Finance Subcommittee? Infrastructure and Marketing, as I recollect, they did not meet this month. That is correct, okay. Shall be no report. Okay, moving right along into the agenda, old business. This is an item that was tabled, and we're going to discuss it further today. This is, COM 0923-9, I'll read it in. This is a motion to review, discuss, and approve amendment number 1 to the On-Call Communications Management and Community Outreach Consultant Services contract by and between Cape Cod Gateway Airport and Pierce Cote Advertising in the amount of $15,000 to conduct and manage the process of updating the Cape Cod Gateway Airport Strategic Plan. This is, sponsors the Infrastructure and Marketing Subcommittee, and it may be acted upon. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Yeah, I just want to question the sponsor because this was never approved by the Infrastructure and Marketing Subcommittee.
It was only approved by finance.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we're not the sponsor.
then this is a misprint.
Yes, it should have
So
been.
it's Finance, I'm sorry.
Finance.
Or is it managed?
Do you want me to proceed then?
Well, I'd like to,
I think we gotta discuss it and get it out there.
yeah, so I'm sure you've all saw the email that I sent out. Bottom line is this, that apparently the proposal that was received by Pierce Cote was not an item-by-item cost proposal on the 25 items that were listed in the request for proposals in the RFP and the scope of work. It was simply a chart that said, hey, this is what we charge, $150 an hour, and everything is $150 an hour, whether it's strategic planning or anything else that they do. They call it a blended rate. The price proposal only lists that. What we're talking about here is an additional $15,000 to do the strategic plan. The very first item listed in the technical scope of services on page 21 of the RFP is strategic planning. It also specifically states that the first year of this contract is not to exceed $60,000 unless it's approved by the Airport Commission and signed by the consultant to the town. Pierce Cote provided communication to the airport. It's not dated, so I'm not sure. I know the PDF was created in October, but I don't know when the actual document, I'm assuming it was April, that says that they're going to average out about $5,000 a month for 33.3 hours of work at $150 an hour. So if that's what they've been doing, and assuming the contract started in June.
Yes.
Okay, so we're 4 full months into this, that's $20,000. We have $40,000 left in year 1. And we're already asking for another $15,000 to do the strategic plan, which was the very first thing that was listed on the RFP. So I'm a little confused about why at this point we're asking for more money when we haven't even got halfway through what the first year
Sure.
budget was supposed to be.
And I understand your question. So typically, when we put together an RFP will be put together for an on-call service, and it includes a compilation of all services that an on-call entity could possibly work on. Sometimes you get to those tasks, sometimes you do not. So this is very similar to other on-call services that we have had in the past. Case in point, our on-call environmental services on-call. We identify, just as an example, we identify in our budget that we set aside $68,000 for those types of services. Sometimes we've used all that money, sometimes we haven't, sometimes we've exceeded that and had to come back to the commission for additional funds. And exceedance would include, PFAS, for example. Our response to PFAS, we've had to go back to DEP and respond to them with additional data that they've requested. Those are costs that although it's in the contract as an example of potential work that they would do, we know that it's above the 68,000, so we've had to come back and ask for additional funds. That also happens with our team Airport Solutions Group. They're an on-call planning and engineering firm. Throughout the year, we've identified $65,000 a year for them to complete a number of different tasks. Again, some tasks we may get to, some tasks we may not. Some tasks might be identified during the year, and that would constitute, if they've gone over their budget, we would come back and request for additional money. Understood. For Pierce Cote, we identified 25 potential tasks that they would work on as part of the overall project. I know Mark made a point that the strategic plan was number one. It was just a number one in a list of 25 potential tasks that they would work on for us. 2 years ago, when I did the budget for 2024, I identified $60,000 as being the annual budget for this type of work. Fast forward, you finally write the RFP, you identify different tasks that you want an entity to work on. I still have $60,000 in the budget because that's what was approved. But we refined it when we developed the RFP. We've added those 25 tasks. And unfortunately, they can do 88% of those tasks, but there's 3 that I identified that they wouldn't be able to do under the $60,000 budget. So when we approved of their contract in June, we had our kickoff meeting with the team in July. They identified to us that we can do the vast majority of the work for you. We typically work with them on a retainer type basis, which takes that $60,000 and identifies how many hours can be achieved per month, which is what Mark was alluding to. We would identify what they can typically do. And we keep track of that. On their invoices, we keep track of where they are. Some months they've been very high, where they've used 70 hours. Other months they're coming down to more of the range of the 33 hours per month. And if you have to adjust during the year, you adjust during the year. But identified during those during the kickoff meeting was 3 tasks that could not be accomplished at all under the $60,000. One of those tasks is the strategic plan. You know, their first month on with us, they probably put in about 90 hours. That was getting up to speed with the airport, learning what the new developments were, responding to different media requirements that they had to respond to. But then as the months went on, they've gotten less and less and more honed into that 33 hours. Unfortunately, they cannot perform the duties of the strategic plan within that $60,000 budget, which is why we brought it forward to the commission to approve a scope of work for $15,000 for a strategic plan to be completed. Now, the contract that we have in place, like I said, is similar to other contracts where you identify tasks along the way and you can add additional tasks with commission approval. We looked at this task as being a high priority task, knowing that it couldn't be funded under the $60,000, which is why we've come forward with an amendment to the existing contract. However, we have a couple of options. We can go forward with this amendment, or we can wait until the end of the contract, which is June 30th of next year. When I say the end of the contract has embedded in it that we can negotiate new rates for the option renewal, which is 2 one-year option renewals. So for that option renewal, we could identify what the true cost is going to be for their work that they do on a regular basis, the 88% of the tasks that they can cover, and then include this at that time, or we can approve it for inclusion now. It just depends on what the commission wants to do and any further questions that you might have.
How much have we spent so far?
I'd have to go back to that for you, but I know that we've spent about 94 hours in the first month. The second month was in the range of, I want to say, 60 hours, and then the last invoice I saw was about 40 hours.
So that's the total that we've invoiced.
Yes, that they've invoiced for us. With that being said, I've already met with the team, we meet on a monthly basis, to identify areas where we can make sure that we're staying within that allotted hours per month, a plan to stay with that. Obviously, if things come up and they have to respond, then, they have to respond to it for us. But we've come up with a few ways to make sure that we're kind of at least trying to stay within that realm of that 33 hours per month. There'll be some months, to be honest with you, I've worked with them before, where we've used 10 hours of their time. We have a lot going on at the airport right now. So we have kind of built them up for the first couple of months with doing a lot of work for us, but I've already seen it kind of, quiet down a little bit with their level of effort.
So far, we've spent $29,100 of their services,
I'd have to double check for you.
based on what you just shared with us, so we have another $30,000 left. A strategic plan is the bow of the ship. Everything follows the strategic plan. We shouldn't be doing anything until we have a strategic plan in place, and then everything we do after that should follow the strategic plan. So to kind of just fit this in whenever doesn't make sense to me. This should be the top priority. We should be doing the strategic plan first, and then everything else should follow out of that. That would determine what we want to spend with the rest of their services. So to me, it would make sense that they've obviously identified it takes 100 hours to come up with a strategic plan, because they're quoting $15,000 at $150 an hour. That's 100 hours. That's what it's going to take. I think that's really high, but if that's what they say, just being in the business, that's high. But if that's what they say, that's what they say. So I would recommend that we spend the next $15,000 of their time on the strategic plan, and then figure out what we're going to do after that and what it's going to cost, and then request any additional funds that may be necessary.
Okay. The only comment that unless you want to
Just a quick comment. We currently have a strategic plan in place.
correct.
And we have a business plan.
A business plan, same.
No, it's not the same.
No, it's not the same.
Business plan flows from a strategic plan.
Right, I agree. That's what it has to do. I always thought we had a current strategic plan.
We have a current plan that we've called our business plan that has 4 goals to it, and that's what was originally developed in 2018.
Does it have goals? Does it have metrics? Does it have
Yes.
indicators of success?
Yes.
As a traditional strategic plan does?
It does. We've changed in how we report it to the commission at the request of infrastructure, but it does have those elements.
Okay, so technically we do have one that supposedly exists,
That is correct.
but it's sort of married to what we now call a budget plan.
Business.
A business
Business
plan,
plan.
yes.
Okay. There is a stark difference between the two.
No, there is,
Commission's
yep.
correct.
Yeah.
And I teach strategic planning, so at the university, I was under the impression we had one in place. In support of what Commissioner Keough was saying, I'm just curious, did they state specifically, I don't have the contract in front of me, but that would include the monies for the creation of a strategic plan? You said that was not the number one item?
This is the only thing we got for cost proposal.
So they indicated that,
Does the contract,
It's on the
I
back.
don't know a copy of the
They
contract.
just have a chart with $150 an hour for all the different things. There was no estimate provided.
Okay,
I
the
would-
strategic plan was included.
Well, for
That's my
$150 an hour, right, oh, yeah,
Yeah, that's
all
what
of
I'm
it.
saying. Okay,
But there was no estimate
that's how,
provided to say, okay, so for this, it'll take so many hours, for this, it'll take so many hours. It's kind of just left carte blanche, and you gotta keep writing checks.
have you prioritized these?
so let me answer a couple of questions
Yeah.
first, because I just don't want to get all over the place.
Mhm.
So, I understand, to answer your question, Mark, you had asked earlier, our estimates for the number of hours provided, or were they provided for each service, and the answer is no. So they identified that for the $60,000 budget, which was created in 2022, well in advance of this contract, for that $60,000 budget, they, knowing their business and what they have provided to other clients in the airport in the past, they could take that $60,000 and they could complete about 88% of those tasks that were identified as possible tasks that their company would work on as part of the scope of work, which they have been doing for us. They've been able to do that. Now, I understand what Mark just stated about saying, let's do the strategic plan first, use up the funds that are available for the strategic plan, but my concern there is if we do that, which we certainly could, but I would still be coming back to you for an amendment to their contract so that they can provide the services for the other 88%. And I don't want to be in a situation where we may need their services as we have been. Obviously the announcement of American Airlines, the media connections that have been made, the interviews that have been able to take place, that was all in communication with this team. So there might be a lot of behind the scenes that they're doing, but they are doing a lot for us to get our messaging out there. They've also created that newsletter. A lot of it has to do with how the airport is perceived by the community. They have their hand in helping us get those messages out. So I understand what Mark is saying, that the strategic plan is very important. I think it is an important plan, but so are the other elements of their task, the 88 tasks that work, 88%. I understand what you're saying, Mark.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's important. I'm saying it has to come first. Because if you're going to determine what other services we're going to use, that should be identified in the strategic plan. And if you haven't identified it, we're just writing checks for different things. So the strategic plan steers the ship, that's what my point is.
Yeah.
And everything flows from that. If the strategic plan is done properly, it should be tied to our mission, vision, and philosophy. And for every goal and objective we identify in the strategic plan, we have to ask ourselves 3 questions. Is it in line with our mission? Will it move us towards our vision? And does it reflect our philosophy? If we can't say yes to all 3, it doesn't go in. And when we build the plan that way, it may be that some of these services don't fit. We don't know. But that's why the plan is so important to come first. And then determine what we need for resources, and then go from there.
I understand what you're saying. My only concern is there would be such a time that we wouldn't have their other services, those 88% of the other services.
Why wouldn't you have them?
Because we would be using the money up front for the strategic plan. And if we wait till the strategic plan is done to guide the ship, then would we not be using their services, their other services? Either way, we would probably have to come back to the commission for an amendment, because they're already, I understand what you're saying, Mark. You're saying have a plan in place, work towards that plan, and identify what other services are needed. But I almost feel that you have this strategic plan and it's kind of a standalone element, because there are other services that they're already providing, such as media and marketing information that they're providing to us, crisis management assistance that they'll be providing to us. Those things are gonna have to happen anyway. I understand what you're saying.
The strategic plan is not a standalone element. And that's my concern, is that statement tells me you don't understand what the strategic plan's purpose is.
I guess maybe I'll restate what I said. Strategic plan is an item that we do have to go forward on to understand the direction that we're going at as an airport. But there are still elements of communications protocol and communications management that we would still have to work on today, tomorrow, next week. The strategic plan is important, but I don't think we will be at the end of, we'll start a strategic planning process, then we'll come out with the plan. That's gonna take some time to get to, while all of these other tasks are still things that we'll need in the interim. For instance, updating our website, providing social media content. Regardless of how the outcome is in the strategic plan, we still have events that are coming forward with the airport. We still have media that we need to get out there in regards to American Airlines and their services that they're going to be providing. We still have media that needs, or press releases, media documentation, interviews that need to occur in regards to the environmental assessment. We still have press releases, media interviews, and documentation that needs to go out there in order for us to talk about PFAS. So there's still those elements that I understand what you're saying.
But those are discretionary. We don't have to do those things. We're doing those things because we feel they're in the best interest of promoting our goals for the airport. But we don't have a strategic plan that has the goals for the airport.
Well, we have a plan that's in place
We have
today.
a business plan.
Well,
We have a plan that's in place today, and we are using the tasks that have been identified in the RFP reflect the existing plan that we have in place today.
let me jump in here. It's possible that the business plan is a misnomer because we've had it in place, it's got goals, it's got metrics. And it is in fact, you know, could certainly be called a strategic plan. And I don't know. I do know that Mark does this stuff, he is. But it seems to me that if we have a plan in place that we call a business plan, that at least for the moment is a strategic plan that'll carry us for a while. It seems, just from the discussion here, whichever way we do this, it's gonna cost a little more if we wanna cover everything.
That is correct.
It sounds to me like Pisco Tay underbid and overpromised.
I don't think so, and,
Well, that's what I'm hearing, and
yeah,
that's what it says.
so I don't think so, so I think, and
Well,
I'll
if they
take,
didn't underbid, they wouldn't be coming back looking for $15,000.
4 months into a 12-month contract.
well, let me take that on for a moment. So when we developed the budget for this particular line item, we identified $60,000 as being adequate to do the services that we were used to getting from our media personnel. So we presented that in the fall of 2022 for the fiscal year. We advanced that forward to this fiscal year. So we were used to working in the realm of 60,000. Now, Pierce Cote, obviously, they saw that when they put in their bid. They said, well, knowing what we can do and what we have done in the past for the airport or for other clients that are similar to the airport, we think we can do everything that's on your list except for these 3 items. So I don't think that they necessarily underbid. They were working within the confines of $60,000. And they said, in those confines, we can provide you these services except for these other 3.
But if they understood the importance of a strategic plan, then the discussion should have been, we need to do a strategic plan first, and then based on the fact that we think it's gonna take 100 hours and $15,000, that leaves us 45,000. Here are the other things we could do for that 45,000. If you want the other stuff, we would need more money. But that's not what happened. It was just, let's just take 60,000 and we'll just spend it. I mean, if we do have 30,000 left, we could take 15,000 for the strategic plan, which we could get done in a month, and still have 3 months of services at their rate that they're saying on a retainer of 5,000 a month to take care of the other stuff, which would give us more than enough time to get the plan done and identify what additional resources we need, and then get that approved at that point.
Okay. Okay.
Is the $15,000 a set fee, or are we doing that as an estimate based on 100 hours? Because
This is their proposal.
maybe it won't cost, we've got 2 experts on strategic plans here, and they're gonna contribute greatly to it and probably lower the workload for Pierce Cote. And wouldn't we be better off just to go move forward by the hour and continue on the other projects that they're gonna take care of as well? And then maybe when we use up $45,000 of their fee, then we put in the.
We could do that, we could identify, we can have it as task 1 and 2. Task 1 would be the strategic plan, task 2 would be all of the other tasks that are included. And knowing that, and then we'd probably have to come back to the commission at another point in time to ask for additional funds to carry us to June 30, 2024. Then we can reassess for option 1 renewal and say, what are our true costs that we need for this item?
That's a decent compromise.
Okay,
Makes sense.
all right, so may I suggest that I go back to Pierce Cote, I ask them to reassess their proposal, just to make sure that, all right, is this truly 100 hours that you think you need to plan this? And they should invoice us according to those hours, rather than using their retainer. Invoice us task 1, we think it's gonna be $15,000, I wanna invoice every month, or however, hopefully it doesn't take more than that. But they'll invoice us for the hours that they spend on that. And then once we have that completed, they'll work still in the background with the other tasks, and we're gonna have to monitor it over the next couple of months, so
I
we
would
can
want
make
to be
changes.
sure that if task 1 is going to be the strategic plan, that it's not strictly hourly, that it will not exceed $15,000.
we can put that in there for task one as
And
well.
that's the max.
Yep.
That I agree to.
Okay,
Even that is a stretch.
so what I would like to do is identify the typically the task level, we'll sign it off on it within just the airport management, but I can bring it back to this body and just say, here's task one, this is a dollar amount not to exceed, and just have the procurement office write up, you know, any contractual
I
information.
don't think we need to do that.
We typically
We-
don't,
We
but,
already have the funding
We
in
have a
place.
contract.
okay,
Yeah.
So what
All right.
I think what we're all saying is that we wanna take out of that $60,000, the next 15 grand
Yep.
goes towards the strategic planning. And what I would wanna see from that strategic planning proposal is specifics of what it is they're going to do for 15 grand before the process even begins.
they have
Is
that
it
there,
right
but if you want it more detailed, I will go back to them and ask for more
Yeah, I wanna
detail.
flush it out in terms of,
Okay.
you know, who's gonna do what and how it's gonna be, and then subsequent to that, the remaining monies go towards the other tasks, and we'll just, you know, redirect it, redivide it accordingly, and some things might have to be let go until
And-
July 1.
And please point out to them, Katie, that a scope of work is supposed to identify what action it's gonna take, not what their past performance is. The last 3 bullets on this is talking about how they've done this for these people,
That's my
they've done
point.
that for them.
It
That's
doesn't,
not
it
a scope
doesn't
of work.
tell us
Yep,
what
yep.
to do.
And that concerns me, that they're putting that in the scope of work, which tells me they don't understand what the scope of work is.
Well, in defense of, I mean, I know Pisco Day folks, I think they've done a great job for us, and I'm not gonna criticize them. But that's not the scope of work there, which is why I'm saying I want specificity in terms of what the $15,000 is gonna bring us. And probably in the future, as we talk about, you know, these are very generic terms, in terms of what people, strategic planning, overall account management, advertising, what does that mean? I think from a commission perspective and a finance committee, subcommittee perspective, there needs to be a little bit more detail in
Okay.
terms of, you know, how are we spending the taxpayers' money, how are we spending, you know, enterprise funds.
But still.
But still.
No. Who owns this airport?
Yeah, the town does.
The town, and who is the town?
Yeah, but us.
The people, the taxpayers. So it is taxpayers' money.
Yeah, point well taken, but I guess what I'm looking for is more specificity in terms of what it is
Yep.
they're going to do,
Okay,
which I think is a fair ask.
Okay, from a technical standpoint, with regard to the motion as presented,
I take a vote.
so what we are doing complies with the motion?
No, we're gonna vote up or down.
Okay,
As the
on
motion
this
is read.
motion as it sits.
Yeah, right.
I think we're gonna vote this motion down and then determine to make a new motion.
That
Yes.
appears to be the case. Okay. All in favor of this motion signify saying aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also suggest that I don't think we need to make another motion. I think that the discussion has informed the airport manager on what we'd like to have happen, and she can manage it.
Yes, I agree.
okay,
I would agree with that.
okay, that sounds good. All
So
right,
we're on the same page.
we are.
We're all
Task
saying
Go
one.
back and tell Pisco Day, we want a strategic plan for the 50 grand, we want specificity in terms of what it is you're gonna do for us, and then after that is all said and done, whatever other items that need to be determined, how we utilize what's ever left in the budget.
Yep.
We'll get a breakdown of what we're going to do and how the money's gonna be spent.
With their estimate of 100 hours, up to 100 hours, right?
Yeah.
It could be less.
Could be.
I don't want to speak for John, but I'm more than willing to have discussions with them as well,
That'd be great.
to help them understand what we're looking for and, you know, consult them through their process,
Okay,
to make sure that we have a strategic plan.
perhaps I would suggest maybe a kickoff meeting with them before we even get into that, so we
Yeah.
can discuss what those elements are. And then they can write out the specific tasks that is according to what we're looking for.
Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate at this point to form a strategic planning subcommittee?
That's what I was just gonna
Do
whisper
I
to
hear a
you.
volunteer?
Put me in, coach.
I'll be-
Yeah.
Okay, we've got these ad hoc. Any objection, Counselor?
No objection.
Okay, we have an ad hoc subcommittee charged with doing what we've been discussing.
Okay?
But I want to thank you all. This has been one heck of a discussion. It's
Yeah.
been
That's
very,
great.
very good.
No, it's been good, thank you. Thanks for your comments and your review.
Okay.
New business now.
New business, here we are, COM 1023-1. Vice Chair Flores, would you read
Yes, this is
that one?
new business, CON 1023-1.
Got it?
Approval,
Motion.
here's the motion, to approve the 20-year license agreement by and between Cape Cod Gateway Airport and NextGrid. Am I saying that right, Rapanya, Rapania? How do you pronounce that?
I just say next grid.
Okay. NextGrid, Rapania LLC and Griffin Realty Trust for the purpose of developing rooftop solar in the Griffin hangar in alignment with Cape Cod Gateway Airport's guidelines for construction. And the sponsor was the Finance Committee, and it may be acted
Is
upon.
there a second, please?
Seconded.
Have a second discussion?
Sure. So this license agreement is to be made between Cape Cod Gateway Airport and NextGrid. Rapina LLC for the development of rooftop solar on airport property at the hangar that is owned by Griffin Avionics or Griffin Realty Trust. So the landowner is the airport. We desire to grant a license over the property to NextGrid for the purposes of access, development, building, operating, and maintaining a rooftop solar array that is to be placed on the hangar that is now owned by Griffin Avionics. Griffin Avionics desire to have us acknowledge the consent to the granting of such a license pursuant to the terms that we have in place and the provisions that we have in place already under the existing ground lease that has been signed back in January 2022 between Cape Cod Gateway Airport and Griffin Avionics. So the license agreement allows the airport to grant the right to NextGrid to put the solar array system on our property, but on the hangar that is owned by Griffin Avionics. It's a non-exclusive license that's subject to all the terms and conditions that we have in place now for the master lease, the ground lease that we have in place. The agreement that we have in place with Griffin Avionics is a 20-year agreement. This license agreement would be for 20 years. Language has been added to the license agreement for NextGrid to provide funding in the form of a guarantee to meet solar array removal obligations. We worked on this guarantee with our airport attorneys to make sure that the airport did have some funds that were set aside by NextGrid that were appropriate for solar array removal if they had to remove it within that time frame. Again, the airport's attorney has reviewed all of these agreements. They made modifications to the agreement, and they're satisfied that it protects the airport. So the request is that the license agreement be accepted by the commission and signed by the commission. Any questions?
Any questions or comments? Just for the benefit of whoever might be listening out in the public, my public disclaimer is Griffin Avionics is in no way related to me. We're different, somewhere back in Ireland, we were probably cousins, but.
The other thing that it's great that this does for the airport is it puts more solar on another hangar building, allowing for us to meet our guidelines for construction and our green initiatives at the airport. We have another tenant that's looking at this, Aloft Aviation, and WS Development just reached out to me today and said they want to put solar on top of their buildings.
Cool.
So, yeah, so I just think that this is the direction that I think the commission has wanted us to go into the past. It also helps Griffin Avionics, the agreement that they have with NextGrid. NextGrid replaces the roof for them and then puts solar on the roof, and then they rent the space from Griffin Avionics for that solar. So there's kind of a win-win for everybody. We're getting our green initiatives, they are getting a new roof on their hangar. Plus, in 20 years, when that transitions possibly over to airport ownership, then we have a facility that has solar that would revert to the airport, a building that may revert to the airport.
Any other questions, discussion, comments? Hearing none, calling the question, all in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And let's see, I'll read this one in. COM 1023-2, a motion to approve the lease subordination, non-disturbance, recognition, and attunement agreement by and through the Cape Cod Gateway Airport Commission and TPS Group Holdings, sublessor of WS Development. Sponsor is management, and it may be acted upon. Do I have a second, please?
Seconded.
Did I get that turn right there?
Yes, you did.
Mr. Lawyer, thank you. Discussion, go ahead, Kate.
Sure, so more great news for the landing at Hyannis. WS Development finalized their lease with the paper store and WS Development, and they're now required to deliver to the paper store a recognition agreement from the Airport Commission. We're the ground lessor. So WS Development and the paper store negotiated some of the terms that really differ from the recognition agreement that was originally approved for by the commission in 2018. So this will happen from time to time. We will see new lessors come on the property. They'll take a look at those recognition agreements, make modifications themselves. Our attorney is always reviewing these agreements to make sure that we're still meeting the ground lessor, the master lease, the ground lessor agreements. A red line version of this agreement was offered by the paper store to our attorneys and to WS Development. It highlighted some, to be honest with you, just changes, what we would consider minor changes that were needed for the new lease that they would have in place at WS Development. Again, the airport's attorney, Anderson and Krieger, worked through those issues on behalf of the airport with WS Development and the paper store. And what was provided to you in the attachment last week is the final version of that our attorneys have reviewed and completed. Airport management is asking for approval of this item. Any questions or comments?
Brad, you're,
No, I'm happy with all of it.
okay. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, call the question. All in favor, signify aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, where are we here? Report of special committees, and we now invite the Yarmouth representative to join the discussion. Hi, Chris.
Thank you. I just had a question that was raised by some people in Yarmouth about, was there an outcome from the October 4th meeting with Mass DEP with on the PFAS issues?
Sure, so October 4th meeting with DEP was between Barnstable Fire Training Academy. This was preface, it was a DEP meeting, they're the ones who hosted this.
Yeah.
They requested that the airport be present, Barnstable Fire Training Academy, and DPW from the town of Barnstable. So the three of us were present at that meeting. We did discuss, what they wanted to do at that meeting was discuss how the airport has identified their source of PFAS, how they did it, what was the science behind it, to assist the Barnstable Fire Training Academy because they are lagging behind quite significantly so in their reporting requirements. So to give you an example, the airport and the Barnstable Fire Training Academy were both notified at the same time that we had to go through this process for DEP. We, the airport, is at phase 5 of the reporting process. Barnstable Fire Training Academy hasn't even completed phase 2. So the purpose of the meeting was to identify how did the airport identify their PFAS, what technology was used, what laboratory results were available. Barnstable Fire Training Academy has access to all of these documents. They're available on our website, they're also available on DEP's website. So the meeting was more of let's get Barnstable Fire Training on board with the documentation that has already been provided by the airport. What can they use, what can they not use, what additional information do they need to proceed forward in their report. We did bring it to their attention that there were residents within Yarmouth and within Barnstable that wanted to have a more overall meeting with DEP. I provided that information to DEP twice now. Once at that meeting, again, during a follow-up email discussion that we had with one of our town councilors, and directed the town councilor to reach out to DEP to schedule that future meeting. So I'm not sure what has happened since then.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
No, that's it for
Well,
now.
thank you very much.
Obviously, we would be very happy when 624 reopens.
And Chris will provide you with an update soon on that.
Yes, that's what I'm waiting for with eager breath.
The clock is ticking.
We're almost there, yeah.
Okay, any other comments? We'll move into updates, please, Katie.
Sure, so I'd like to start with the very first update. which we've had a very exciting week in identifying our new airline that will be serving the airport, which is American Airlines. That's an example of the aircraft that they will be operating out of here. It's an E-175, Embraer 175. Depending on the model, it will carry, I think, about 72 to 75 passengers, a little bit smaller than the JetBlue aircraft in terms of passenger loads. They are looking at the start of their service will be June 5th, which will go from Hyannis to LaGuardia, daily flight. Then on June 20th, they will have a Hyannis DCA operation that they will offer out of Washington, DC. This is huge for the airport. I know you've seen the news media, but we have been talking to American Airlines as well as other airlines. Over the past 5 years since we started the business plan, we've been going to what I've always called speed dating for airlines, because you literally get about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes to pitch your airport to an airline. We've always sat with American Airlines every time we went to these events. The last airport roundtable that I was at, I sat right next to the American Airlines guy and really trying to push that they need to take a look at the year-round residents that would use this as well as visitors using the service. So I think finally, after several years of conversation, their success that they've had on the islands, which they're already on the islands, the Vineyard in Nantucket, and because they don't have a strong foothold at Logan Airport at Boston, this allows them to capture some of that southeastern Massachusetts and Cape and Island market that perhaps are going to Boston instead and probably booking other flights on other airlines. So I think that probably through their analysis, I didn't help them with that analysis, I just provided them with the information of why we think they should be here. They've done their own analysis. An airline's not gonna come in unless they thoroughly think that they can make a profit and they can tap into the most amount of potential customers that they can hit. So I think with that, they crunched their numbers. They came and met with Matt and I, 3 months ago maybe? I think about 3 months ago, to talk to us about the possibility. And then we got hit with the news last week that they're coming. So their team will be here next month to look at, they've already been here once, to take a look at the terminal to see what options they had for their counter space and TSA clearance areas. And they'll be back here at the beginning of the month, next month, to solidify that, to see what they need for construction to be able to put in their counters and what they need here at the airport. So it's a big win for us. It's a huge win.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Very. John?
Two quick questions. The Hyannis to DCA and DCA back to Hyannis, it begins on June 20th
That's correct.
through
September.
September.
Yeah.
What's the likelihood of getting that cranked up again for the winter? Because I'm just thinking, there's so many folks who leave Cape Cod to go south. If you go Hyannis to DCA, you can pretty much, out of DCA, you can pretty much go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of DCA.
It is, and we have asked them, of course, we ask all the time, we ask JetBlue all the time if they would do some type of service that's beyond just seasonal, that they would look at winter service. I think because of the comments that I've seen come across through different media outlets, people can comment on the news and media coverage, it's been overall very positive. So I could see that there could be a possibility where it's less than daily, but a possibility that there could be winter service. We will push that.
Sure.
I am not sure if American Airlines will go in that direction, but we will certainly push that.
No, I just hear from so many people who live here year-round, at wintertime, they really hate going to Logan. If there was a way to get, if you could go Hyannis to DCA in January, February,
Easy.
that's the Caribbean and South America.
And my offices are in DCA.
Well,
So this is tailor-made.
I was just about to
And you can
interject
park your
that there are a lot of people, I believe there's a lot of people on the Cape, not only summer people, but year-round that do business in
Sure.
DC.
Yeah.
And would
Absolutely.
absolutely jump on that to get out of here and go direct.
And
Yeah, I
I
agree.
used to do a lot of work in DC, and the only time I would really want to go to Reagan, when I knew I had to be downtown DC. Otherwise, DCA is wonderful, but DCA is not the place you want to be when you have a meeting downtown. Because that trip in is always.
Oh, it's a lot better than Dulles.
Yeah.
Oh, you were talking
No,
about.
no, no.
You're talking about Dulles,
No,
yeah,
no,
DCA,
no,
DCA is great.
DCA is right in the middle of the.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how many people that I've spoken to in DC, when I mention them on Cape Cod, I've heard the comment, I've never been there, I've always wanted to go, but it's such a long drive.
Yeah, this is gonna be, well, I can tell you right now, as soon as I told my parents about this flight, my dad is already booking his flights to go to DC. So anyway, we'll push that to see if there's some winter service. We do have incentives for airlines that want to go and provide us with service that's winter off-season. So we'll have those conversations with them. I think it will also take some more investigation to see, what is the likelihood of those flights being profitable during those winter months. If they're less than daily, I bet you they'd be very profitable.
Well, nonetheless, either way.
Congratulations
Thank you.
Yeah, that was.
to everybody
That's a
that
great win.
landed them.
Excuse the pun.
Yeah, excuse the pun, exactly.
So for other updates, for the monthly financial review and the business plan review, obviously we know the business plan review or strategic plan is on hold, and so we proceed forward with that. I do owe the finance committee the financial documentation, and I will get you that shortly. From an electric aviation update, this has been quite the few weeks with electric aviation and conversations that I've had. So we continue with our conversations with tenants. Like I said, a draft lease has been presented to Beta of Burlington for an electric charging station. I am bummed that we weren't the first in the Commonwealth, but that's okay. At least we're on their list, and they will be putting something in after the first of the year. Conversations I mentioned last month have started with Southern Airways Express and Surf Air Mobility. For a hybrid aircraft option. They've actually reached out to us already to say that they would be interested in potentially coming back to the Cape with a hybrid aircraft, having flights that go to the islands. We'll see what comes of that. I'm not gonna hold my breath right now. I'm gonna continue conversations, but we will see what comes of that. Although Transcend Air has not returned my calls, I will tell you that my most recent conversations with Mass Autonomy in Massachusetts led to an opening of the seas with lots of contacts.
Yeah.
So I was asked to present the airport's side of electric aviation at their most recent summit that they had. I presented at that summit and identified the concerns that airports have in regards to electric aviation, where it's really infrastructure concerns, right? But that opened the doors to a lot of other discussions. One is I got the contact for Transcend Air, and they made an introduction via email for me, so I'll be reaching out to them.
Awesome.
Two is the folks at Mass Autonomy have purchased a share of an electric aircraft called the Pipistrel. It's a two-place aircraft. I pitched to them that they should use Hyannis as their case study airport. Use this airport as the facility where they fly out of this airport. They identify the ease of traveling to the islands with an electric aircraft. They're also using that aircraft for their own test studies to make sure, what is the true range of this aircraft? What would happen, if there was an emergency with this aircraft? So they're working with me on that right now. We're trying to find a home for them. We've reached out to some existing tenants where they have hangar space and office space. We've also reached out to Cape Air because obviously with them wanting to go with electric aviation, this would be huge for them to have a study that's being conducted here. So we'll continue down that path and see how we do. In regards to our grant award for the Smart Grid program, MassDOT has submitted their contract to the selected contractor. They haven't let us know who that is yet, but we will be having a kickoff meeting with them hopefully next month. The contracts just went out on, I believe they said October 4th or 5th. The contracts went out, so they have to go through that process, and then we'll have a kickoff meeting with them. I talked already about the Advanced Air Mobility Summit. I think that's all I have for electric aviation.
I'm gonna jump in on that one quick.
Sure.
The aviation exposition, the educational expo that we had here.
Yep.
I gotta commend Beta. They bought a shell of an Airstream trailer, and inside it they created virtually I mean with virtual realities to a degree that I've never experienced, a flight simulator for their eVTOL aircraft. And it's so real, and the amount of research and everything that they put into this, I'll tell you how good it is. I flew it and I didn't crash it. But it's an entirely different experience from anything that we've ever used to. But I really commend them for the amount of effort and energy and what it seems to be just near perfection that they put into this.
Yeah, they're one of many companies out there that have really, the technologies that they're using, the team that they have that has created their vision for electric aviation is amazing. I mean, the brain power that they have for some of these companies is unbelievable. Beta was able to fly their Alea aircraft, they're all electric aircraft, to Marshfield's opening for the new charging station. I've pitched to them that they should do that also when they come here on April 24th for the Blue Economy event that the Cape Cod Chamber is putting on here at the airport that is going to be centralized around electric aviation and electric vehicles. So, let's hope the Alea can come in and everybody can take a look at it. That'd be pretty interesting.
It'd be interesting to see how it gets to Florida, because skipping from, it has a 300-mile range, maybe the Marshall is changing its way down.
No, it's from Burlington.
Burlington,
Vermont.
Yeah, I understand, but it went from Burlington to
Oh, gotcha.
Marshfield, now it's gonna go from Marshfield to wherever,
Yeah.
eventually
To-
to
yeah,
Florida.
Yeah, their range is it 300?
300.
It is 300, yeah.
In conventional.
Right, they
configuration.
have both conventional eVTOL and a conventional takeoff aircraft
Yeah.
as well. So they have a couple of different options. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
But interesting, we have a lot that's gonna be going on as we step into 2024 in regards to electric aviation. So, we wanna be first in something with electric aviation. If we can't do it with the charger, we'll do it with something else. Besides the grant that we got. So anyway, moving on. WS Development, obviously you know that we now have Floor and Decor there, Whole Foods, the paper store, and they're working with their existing tenants to develop new leases. So they're working through that. You will see, if you haven't already, some work that they're doing in regards to the new crossing that they will have that connects what I say is the airport campus to the WS Development retail campus. They'll be working on that. So you might have seen some work already if you've driven by that area, but they will be at some point painting some lines that there's a crosswalk in front of the Cape Air building. Project updates. Did you provide? Yes.
Just a quick question, regarding the landing, is there any more update on new tenants, or have we been informed? Who's
So-
going in?
The only ones that we have right now, Floor Decor, Whole Foods, and the paper store that we know of, they are working through agreements with some of their existing tenants, and they are still trying to work on agreements to lease out the other 50% of the old Kmart building that Floor and Decor is now in. They're only occupying 50%.
They haven't announced what that might be.
No, they haven't. They keep it very close to the vest.
Yeah, I mean,
Until
people for,
yeah.
for pickleball courts, you
Yeah.
name it.
Yeah, no, they haven't announced to us what that will be. We have monthly meetings with them, check-in meetings, and typically that's when they notify me or don't. They'll say, we have a new tenant, but I can't tell you who it is yet.
Yeah, I think Florida Decor either opens up this Thursday or next.
Yeah, they already had commercials out
Yeah.
for the new Hyannis location, so I've seen those on TV this weekend.
Interesting.
Chris, project updates,
All
please.
right,
All right, here we go.
good afternoon. I don't have any updated pictures for you guys, but I have, better than pictures, I have good news on the status of projects. So I'm gonna start off with the T-Hanger project. T-Hanger project, we got a request from the contractor for substantial completion that came through today. We'll evaluate that request. There may be some final punch list items that we need to do for that. I expect to get a certificate of occupancy for the T-Hanger by the end of next week. Certificate of occupancy. The next is for the for the FBO space. The inspector came in and gave us final sign off for that. We should have, when I get out of this meeting, the certificate of occupancy for the FBO. Which means moving day for our staff should be by the end of this week. They should be moved into that space and operating out of the FBO space. So a lot of hard work to get there. Moving's never fun, but I think the guys and staff are gonna be excited to make that move.
Can I stop you real quick
Considering where they were
for that? We would like to do, and we haven't set a date yet, I want to wait until when we actually moved in and got all the kinks worked out. But we would like to have some type of ribbon cutting or some event that takes place there. I know that some of our existing jet fuel purchasers have indicated that they would love to come when the new site is opened up. So I'd like to be able to invite them to. We just haven't worked out the date yet because we wanted to make sure we were ready.
I want to make sure that
You're here?
former Commissioner Beth Young
Yes, I
is
agree.
part of that ceremony.
And former airport manager Bud
You
Briel
bet.
wants to be here as well.
That project, the T-hanger and the FBO were combined into one project. From a financial standpoint, we are still under budget on that. The schedule did slide, and so that happens from time to time. I'm very excited to get that project completed and get the staff moved in that space. And once I get the closeout process done, I'll have more accurate numbers on where we stand with final budget numbers, but we are under budget for that. The next is Mary Dunn Way Extension. We just today were over looking at some of the signage there, the monument sign that's off of Route 28. There's some punch list items we need to do to try to adjust it a little bit. We're going back and forth with the contractor on the best way to prevent maybe some water intrusion from happening, so we should have a resolution on that and be able to finally put that project away. So excited about the Mary Dunn Way. Runway 624. That project will be inspected by MassDOT Aeronautics and the FAA tomorrow.
Yay.
The staff's gonna come to this space here at 09:30 tomorrow, do a safety briefing with Matt and I, get in a van and head out to the field. We'll inspect that. We already have a punch list that's been formalized and shared with all the staff. I don't foresee anything earth-shattering there, but until you go walk it, you never know. But I look forward to that. So final inspection tomorrow, FAA flight check Friday. Barring flight check, we'll go through, they'll check all the instrument approaches for that runway and some other things. Takes time to make some adjustments to the equipment on the ground, and hopefully by Friday afternoon, the flight check goes well. We'll have other things checked out, so I'm gonna say tentatively the following week. We should have a runway. Again, once we have the final inspection done, we'll know if there's anything that needs to be addressed. That's so for the 624 project. That project, as far as the financial standpoint, is under budget. Again, once I close the project out, I'll have a better update of where we stand financially on that. But as far as timeline is concerned, the contractor has requested substantial completion for that project. So we will stop the clock for them, barring anything out of the ordinary on the inspection, we'll punch list that. So very good news on runway 624.
Nice job.
Any questions on 624 or ARP Ops at this point? Okay.
All good news.
It is. I'll transition now to the EMAS project. EMAS project, we have a little bit of a hang up on some disposal of some items. We were able to work through that. EMAS project, the new bed has been installed. If you've driven on 28, you'll see it there. And all the reflectors around it, so you can't miss the EMAS. That project, I would say, is also nearing substantial completion. There's a few things we have to do cleaning up the site and bringing it back to the original condition, but all the work installing that is completed. So EMAS, right now, it's 67 days into a 90-day project. I do not see that project going past 85 days. So moving forward with that, I expect substantial completion for that to be coming in the next 2 weeks, not sooner. And so I think what we'll be able to do is marry up the EMAS completion and getting that all put to bed with the runway at the same time, because we have to have at least the RSAs for the runway clear before we can finish everything there. So they kind of work in concert with each other. So that's the EMAS. Any questions with that?
Certainly looks better than the one that just left.
It does.
Hopefully we never have to use it.
Yeah.
So and again, with all those projects, as we begin to close them out, we'll have a better update on where we stand financially. But I do show those projects under budget. There may be some change orders that are coming, just as you close things out and you do a final walkthrough, there's some long lead items. So I do expect a change order for each one of those projects to come through. So, any other questions? Sir?
Just an observation, it doesn't have, just it's dealing with the parking lot that we're leasing out on 28 to
To Suffolk Construction.
to Suffolk Construction. They did a lot of landscaping early on.
Yes, and it needs
Landscaping's
to
gone
be.
south.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure is.
I noticed that the other day, and I was gonna mention to you that they definitely need to do some weeding in there and just clean it up. Yeah, yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get back to them.
That, I noticed that yesterday.
Yeah,
It
driving by,
was-
I go, whoa, what happened here?
That's not good.
Thank you very much,
Yeah, I
Chris, really
I
appreciate
want
it.
to commend all of you with all the plates that have been in the air for the last few months. To see it all coming together and, flipping the switches and it's done. Just congratulations.
Thank you. It
Chris.
was a lot of work, and these guys right here definitely helped make a lot of this happen. And our staff, our ops staff, our maintenance staff, everybody. Everybody, this was a hard year for everyone. And we did have a lot of balls in the air. We were graced with some grants that we didn't know we were gonna get, which constituted the vast majority of these projects outside of the runway project. All the other ones had to deal with funds that we received through the CARES Act grant. We honed into what we wanted for our events. Sue helped with a lot of those events, which was wonderful. Our whole team helped prepare for those. It was a lot of work. I think Chris and Matt are going to be happy when they have one project that they're dealing with next year, which we already know what that project probably will be. But yeah, a lot of moving parts this year. I think we're all tired. I think we're all glad to see some of this come to an end, which is good. And we've improved our airport for our users. That's what it all comes down to.
I think overall, from a leadership perspective, a management perspective, a staff perspective, everybody's contributed above and beyond. To the point where really all of these projects have pretty much remained flawless. I mean, they're huge projects, and for all of these to be, running concurrently, to really not have any aggravating problems is amazing.
Yeah.
Just go to the school building business.
You made it look easy. You really
Yeah,
did.
that's my point.
We have a good team that helped us get there, so that was great. Okay, thank you, Chris. Airport environmental assessment, and Chris Greeley, if you could, you'll get a notification in your inbox, but we have moved the October 18th meeting to December 12th.
December 12th, thank you.
Yep, it will be a virtual meeting at 2 o'clock like we've done in the past, and an in-person meeting at Town Hall in the James H. Crocker Jr. hearing room at 6 p.m.
On the 12th?
on the 12th. The request to move the date was from the FAA. They want a little bit more time to digest the documentation that's been provided by both the airport and Epsilon Associates, our team. They will be present, the FAA and Master Aeronautics will both be present at both the virtual and the in-person meeting. And that really has been a request of the community to have them present to respond to some questions that the community had. So they will be there on the 12th.
Thank you.
Yep. PFAS, we completed our phase 5 report. It was just submitted last week to DEP's website. We've got to post it on our website. It's not up there yet. We'll continue having our meetings with DEP, and we do want to hold another public meeting at the community's request to kind of where we are after phase 5. We hope to broaden that a little bit more with some folks from DEP, but I'll keep you posted on that. Upcoming events, the October Hangers and Hamburgers, Mass Air and Space Museum, may want to move that yet again to a different month, so I'll be working with them on that. I almost feel like we should just do it and have them come over here, but we'll see what happens. March 2024, the actual day has not been selected, but I have 2 scout troops that want to come for a night at the terminal sleepover, so we'll be working with the 2 scout troops on that.
Are there any from the Cape?
We did reach out twice to the Cape and Islands, and I haven't heard back from them.
I'll reach out to them.
Thank you, appreciate it. April 24th is the Cape Cod Blue Economy Foundation's event, so just a little bit of background on that. The foundation was launched in 2015 by the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce. The Blue Economy Project is a regional initiative to promote and sustain a maritime-focused economy on Cape Cod, the islands of Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, and southern Plymouth County. So when they started that, each year for their summit, they have different topic and discussion points. The effort builds on, our existing tourist economy, our world-class marine research technology cluster that we have here on the Cape, sustainable use planning dedicated to preserving the Cape Cod's environment. That's really their focus and what their push has been. So for 2024, they want to focus on electrification, which sits well with the airport's wheelhouse. With our 20-acre array, many of our tenants who have rooftop solar or are seeking rooftop solar on their facilities, as well as the installation of both vehicle and electric aviation charging stations. So they are looking at doing this over at Loft Aviation's hangar. I believe they have a cap of 200 people that they would invite to this. It would be invitation only. But some of the guest speakers include, right now, tentatively, Beta Aviation from Burlington, Vermont, Dr. DiCarlo from MassDOT Aeronautics, and some folks from Mass Autonomy. So I think it'd be an interesting event. If any of the commissioners want to attend that event, please let me know so I can make sure I let the chamber know. June 13th with a rain date on June 20th, I'm giving a well advanced notice to some of our commissioners that may want to attend festivities on the flight. So that is going to be in June with a rain date June 20th. September, we're looking at potentially CCYP on September 19th of next year. A great day at the Gateway for September 24th. We're going to look at doing that inside of a hangar so that if we do have inclement weather, it will not cancel the entire event. And then we're moving back to October for our Aviation Career Fair. They've asked us to revisit doing that during STEM week, so we will. We've identified October 24th, which is a Thursday, as doing our 4th annual Southeastern Massachusetts Aviation Career Fair. And
Okay,
that's-
could you send us a calendar of the events?
I will.
Specific.
You got anything, is this the weekend that you've got Mama up in Plymouth, MAM?
Yes, so the Massachusetts Airport Managers Association has their annual conference. I believe 2 of our commissioners are attending the commissioners briefing, which is on Sunday.
What time?
That's it. Noon time, okay. And then we have topics that will be discussed on Monday and Tuesday of the event. So I'm glad that you will be attending. Matt, you're the outgoing president.
That's right.
Any words that you'd like to say about Mama?
No, it's a worthy cause and we'll be excited to have everyone, and there is still time to register. If you're interested in going to the commissioner briefing, it touches a lot of subjects that are, designed to give you some tools as commissioners. It's not done every year. I think the last time was 2018, but there's been a demand. And from what I understand, there's about 50 commissioners from across the state who are planning to be there as of now. So still time to register. Yes.
And Wendy, you were going?
Yes.
Great.
John and I.
I'm on to it.
Okay, great, thank you, Matt. And then the latter part of next week, after the Mama Conference, I will be flying to Kentucky to go to the Airport Roundtable, which is this is a little bit more than just speed dating for airlines. This is that intimate affair where they cap it at 50 people, I think I've told you about this before, where they cap the attendance at 50 people. You usually have about 10 airlines there that you're sitting side by side with them or doing some type of activity with them during the course of the conference. They always give an update of where the state of the industry is, which is always very interesting to get that annual look at what airlines are looking at. Most of them are looking at larger aircraft, putting more people in aircraft, which is why you see a lot of reduction in airport operations over the years, because airlines are buying bigger aircraft. They're putting more people in one aircraft where it took 2 previously. So I'll be there for that, and I'll be able to provide you with a briefing like I have in the past of what was covered during that meeting so that we can kind of see where we are in the state of the industry. But it'll be nice to see our new partners, American Airlines, at the event.
You said Kentucky?
Kentucky,
Is that Louisville?
Louisville,
Louisville.
Louisville,
Louisville.
Louisville.
You said
Louisville.
I used to have an office in Louisville.
Hi, Louisville. We.
It's great bourbon country.
Yes, yes, I know. But it'll be a good event. It'll be a good event.
Just interestingly, where the airlines go, what they're doing and what they serve. There are hundreds and hundreds of airports in this country, we, to some degree, being one of them. But the airlines don't serve the way maybe we'd like them to. But general aviation does serve those airports. And we have a lot of call it on-demand service that brings people in and out of here. And interestingly enough, the NetJets, which is one of the bigger operators, has just auctioned for 1,500 Cessna Citations, 3 different models, the Latitude, the Longitude, and the Ascent. Now, that's a lot of airplanes, and that tells you that there is a huge amount of business to serve people that go to airports, but the big guys don't necessarily take them. And it's sort of, you know, to some degree, it's like Uber with wings. It's on demand. You're here, you gotta get there, you make the phone call, they set it up, and you go.
Yeah, no, it's true, and I mean, I think we have to remember that there's multiple uses for an airport, and that's one case in point. We just recently gave a tour on the airfield to a couple of folks, and during that tour, we had corporate jets that came in and out, we had Cape Air that flew in and out, we had the Coast Guard that was here, that came in and out, and then we had a patient being brought from Cape Cod Hospital to the East Ramp to meet with Boston MedFlight. So that's a lot of different activity, but that's what we typically see here. Those are our users. And then not to mention our daily operations by Marine Lumber that flies their employees to and from the islands every single day. 1,200 people that they bring to the islands annually. 1,200.
Oh, annually.
Yeah, annually. So, and that's the lifeline for them, and their people do not live on the island, they live here, and they bring them over to the island, so those are kind of the
Yeah, they have
different,
those planes.
right, they have,
2 new
yeah,
Grand Caravans.
they do,
They retired the Navajos.
so, yes, so case in point, a lot of activity.
Any other comments from anybody?
Just curious question, is Gulf Airline projecting that they might stop passengers?
They are having an issue with pilot, shortage, just as Cape Air is. I know that, even some interviews that they had, set up with a number of different pilots, a number of the people that they were supposed to interview just didn't even show up to the interview, which was crazy. So they're having some difficulty with a pilot shortage. Outside of that, I would have to connect with Bill McGrath to find out where they sit on their certificate with the FAA.
Thank you.
Hearing no others, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Seconded.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Don't hear that. We are adjourned at 17:24.